Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In this video, I want to show you my Phalaenopsis violacea. By hearing the word Phalaenopsis, you probably um, remember seeing a lot of Phalaenopsis orchids at grocery stores, and you can see this plant looks quite different from those Phalaenopsis at grocery stores, and that's because those are, in general, the two groups of Phalaenopsis that are commonly available, and the ones at the grocery stores are more their parents are from a cooler region of the world, and they need the cool temperature. It doesn't have to be super cold. It's like 50 degrees at night, or even 60 sometimes. That cool temperature, the drop in temperature, will trigger the formation of flower buds, and those flowers are usually not super fragrant. Some Phalaenopsis, like Phalaenopsis schuleriana, is a really cool plant with spotted leaves, and that one is fragrant. But most of the ones that needs cool to trigger flowering that you see in the grocery stores are not fragrant. And there's another group of Phalaenopsis that consists of, Phalaenopsis violacea, the one in front of me, and another famous one is Phalaenopsis bellina, whose flower looks more like a delicious watermelon with green and red, and the leaves are usually wider than this. So those species and some others are this group of Phalaenopsis that likes it warm and humid. Phalaenopsis violacea is from the eastern Indian Ocean in Southeast Asia, and it likes it warm, it likes it humid. I bought this plant back in February when the flower spike was just a little tiny growth on the plant. So this is about 2 months of growth in terms of the flower spike. And this leaf was about, let me make it focus first. This leaf was about this long when I bought it, and it grew maybe like this much during the course of past 2 months. So it wasn't the fastest growing, but what I've noticed recently is that after I potted in moss, its growth really accelerated quite significantly. So when I first bought it, it was on this plastic plaque plate looking thing. It was bare root, and I think it was imported by the orchid vendor from Thailand. And he was saying that sometimes you see orchids imported bare root, but sometimes in moss. But for the ones that are imported from Thailand, they have to be imported bare root, and this one was mounted on the plaque. And so when I bought it, I love growing orchids mounted, if you don't already know. And it was like, wow, this is great. I can probably mist it a few times a day, and that should be able to do the job. But it was not enough. So you see some of the roots that are like this tip kind of withered, and that one. And despite my misting them a few times a day, it's not that frequent, but it's pretty moist. It's still not doing great. And then I put moss over some of the roots. I tied them with fishing line, and I was seeing the roots that were under the moss were so much healthier. And some of the new root tips or some of the new root growth, when they are not touching the moss, it kind of just slowed down or stopped growing, and the roots that were touching the moss were the only one that still have a pretty active root tip. So recently I've decided to pot it up in moss, and I have this weird setting where I just this is like a bottle of isopropanol bottle, but yeah, like just a rubbing alcohol bottle. But yeah, I stacked those two bottles just so that it's tall enough, and I put the plaque in there, and then I stuffed it with moss so that the entire root system is in really good humidity. And the plant has grown so much more since I put it in there. It even is producing nectar on the flower spike, if this will focus. There you go. So, in Callias, I usually see those nectar droplets at the tip of leaves, or like when on flowers when the sepals are meeting the pedicel. But on this one, it's just in the middle of the internode on the flower spike. and I love it. It's really doing well recently, and the leaves are feeling so much more hydrated as well, and yeah, it's loving it. And in terms of the culture, other than I guess it likes a warm and humid, many people also say when you water them, if they're in an upright position, make sure there's no water accumulating in the crown area here. And because in nature, those orchids actually grow this way, and so I don't know what's happening with my focus today. It's keep going out of focus. Um, the orchids actually growing this way, so the water never accumulate in the crown, so there's never crown rot. But if you grow the plant upright, just make sure that there's no water accumulating sitting there for a long period of time. And I actually see for a lot of those species Phalaenopsis, even if you put them in a pot upright, they still kind of just lean over and grow towards become like this over time. And that's why I decided to pot mine this way, so it looks more natural. Well, the bottle doesn't look natural at all, but the way the plant grows looks more natural, and there's never a problem with crown rot. And so yeah, that's basically it for the culture. Pretty straightforward, warm, humidity, and no water in the crown. Onto the flower itself, I don't know if you can see the patterns on the petals and sepals. If this will focus, like kind of see those wiggly things. Probably can see it, but in any case, Phalaenopsis violacea have, I think, most of the two most common color forms I see are indigo, which is just entirely purple, like this color purple, or alba, which is just almost entirely white with some green tips. And this is, I personally would prefer indigo more, but when I bought it, it was labeled Phalaenopsis violacea blue. I should have taken that as a hint. This is probably going to become a cerulean. And I think this is a cerulean, if that's probably what it's closest to. I'm not the best with, again, color descriptions, but it's a quite nice, it's a really cute bloom. It's not big, it's just like, if my hand for comparison, if my phone will focus, what's happening today? Maybe the flower is too small for the phone to pick it up. Yeah, it's not big, but it's really fragrant. This fragrance is not like no other Phalaenopsis. I've grown Phalaenopsis bellina, whose fragrance is more fruity and summery, and this one smells like a mixture of roses and cinnamon. That's what most people also seem to agree on online, and I think that's a really accurate description. But the caveat is, for me, sometimes they smell like roses, sometimes smell like cinnamon. It's rarely both of those scents at the same time. I found it really interesting that it's so like different. Sometimes I smell it, I smell roses. Sometimes I stick my nose to its surroundings, I smell cinnamon. But regardless, it's a really cool plant, and it smells wonderful. And despite the flower being quite small, it packs a really powerful punch. And one other thing about the flower is that it is a sequential bloomer. What that means is that this spike will grow, have a flower, have another flower, have another flower. This spike will keep producing flowers for a while, and unlike Cattleyas, on top of a spike there are flowers, and once the flowers are gone, it's unlikely to branch or flower again on the same spike. But these being sequential bloomers means that never cut the spike unless it's turning brown or you see withering away, because all the tip could still produce new flowers. Right now it's April, and this probably can flower on and off throughout the summer. And I've read online people saying that it could flower year round, but it probably need the light, the warmth, and the humidity to flower year round. I think I can provide all three factors, so we'll see how long I can keep this flowering and keep this plant happy. But regardless, even if I only have a few months in a year to enjoy this flower, I love it. It's wonderful. Do I have anything else I want to cover about this plant? I think that's it. All right. Oh yeah, one last thing is that I don't have a lot of Phalaenopsis plants this is actually the only Phalaenopsis I have, but there are lots of fragrant Phalaenopsis hybrids. There are lesser known and less, well, they're probably more known than the grocery ones, but they're a little bit less available than the grocery store ones. But some famous ones like Sweet Memory, Leodoro, and there's probably Dafun is one of the others. There are just so many grateful fragrant Phalaenopsis you can choose from. So whenever you want a Phalaenopsis, instead of getting the grocery store type, try one of those fragrant hybrids. They will blow your socks off. They're amazing. I love it. Oh, one last thing. They do like higher light levels than the grocery store Phalaenopsis. I would say like bright indirect light, kind of like the light you provide for Oncidium is fine. I give it pretty bright light for this one actually, closer to the low end of Cattleyas, and it's doing fine. The leaves aren't burnt, the plant is happy, it's producing nectar. So yeah, it's definitely higher light requirement than the grocery store type Phalaenopsis, but I think that's also not impossible to provide in most homes. So yeah, if you have the opportunity to try it out, please do. This will not disappoint. With that, I will conclude and see you next time.